The Toronto Blue Jays just landed another pitcher this free agency in Tyler Rogers. And even though they've arguably been the most active team this offseason, they are still far from done. So, what does this Tyler Rogers deal mean for the roster, and what does it mean for their remaining plans this winter? Man, just take a look at this bullpen, folks. It is really starting to fill out. Jeff Hoffman up there at the top, Jimmy Garcia behind him, and then you got new acquisition Tyler Rogers, 77.1 innings to his name. Last year pitched in 81 games, the most out of any pitcher, literally half of the entire baseball season. Tyler Rogers, he was touching the field in some capacity, so he is just such a major acquisition to this Toronto Blue Jays team. And the work that they have done with the pitching staff as a whole, I mean, it truly is admirable. You scroll up and you look at what was the strength and then what was the weakness of this Toronto Blue Jays team in 2025. The strength, pretty clear. Offense was amazing. First in average, first in on base, third in OPS. So incredible stuff right there. But the starters, the bullpen, that's where it needed work. So what does Ross, what does Mark go out and do? They bring in Dylan Cease. They bring in Cody Ponce. They bring back Shane Bieber. They get in Tyler Rogers. They make a trade for Chase Lee. I mean, across the board, they are addressing the needs of this team beautifully. And frankly, I am looking now at this pitching staff and I'm thinking to myself, I'm satisfied. I'm good. If they want to go out and they want to go and get somebody that can rival Jeff Hoffman for that closing spot, chef's kiss, that would be beautiful. But frankly, with the way that things are right now, with Jose Barrios waiting in the wings, with Eric Lauer waiting in the wings, the fact that Braden Fisher, mind you, if you look at this, Braden Fisher not even on the roster anymore. He was awesome for us. Lots of people loved Fish Boy, but he's right now chilling, where even is he? Down in the minors in some capacity somewhere, folks. He's not on the starting roster. Just goes to show the level of depth that this Toronto Blue Jays team has. They are fine when it comes to the pitching staff right now. If they want to forget about that for the remainder of free agency, I'm good with it. The position player side of things, though, that is where the next step is going to lie. But before we get into all that, I do just want to quickly highlight this. This was awesome, man. Take a look at the different looks here by Trey Savage and Tyler Rogers. Gonna play this one time so I don't end up getting copyrighted. Shout out to Pitching Ninja here. Look at the difference in arm angles. Beautiful stuff here. Just absolutely immaculate, folks. You take a look, you can slow it down right here, but like, look at that. We're talking about roughly 180 degrees of difference right there between Tyler Rogers and Trey Savage. So really cool stuff adding to that bullpen. Let's now talk about what's next, everybody, because obviously they've addressed the pitching, through and through. Things are looking good there, but now it is time to start looking at the position player side of things, and I'm not the only one that thinks it. This is an article from Sportsnet. It reads, having already added starters Dylan Cease and Cody Ponce as free agents, and Shane Bieber when he exercised his player option, plus taking righty Spencer Miles, forgot about that one, in the Rule 5 draft, the Blue Jays now appear poised to focus more on the position player market. They remain engaged on Bichette and Kyle Tucker, and influential agent Scott Boras hinted during the winter meetings that the Blue Jays were monitoring Cody Bellinger's market as well. The Blue Jays feel their position player group is strong enough with sufficient depth that they don't need to add for the sake of adding. And I do tend to agree with them there, right? You look over at the lineup, it is still solid. I know that we don't have Bichette in there right now, but it's still really solid, and you're hoping that you're going to get something from Anthony Santander. I mean, I don't think that you can just slot him in as a 565 OPS guy. He is obviously going to be better than that. So you're thinking that there's going to be some positive movement in that direction. So the lineup is still good, but clearly when you lose somebody like Bichette, you want to try to rectify that. And even though Toronto is trying to make pitching one of their strengths as well, the identity of this team is still through and through the offense. If they want to go back to the World Series, if they want to finish where they were unable to finish before, they are going to need that offense to pop. And that is why I do truly believe that Kyle Tucker, Bichette, Cody Bellinger very much still in play. Gonna highlight this, just the latest on what's going on with those guys right now. We brought this up previously, but gonna show it to you guys again. Vladdy, giving a little eyes emoji over there to Kyle Tucker on one of his recent Instagram photos. Just goes to show that clearly Vladdy is aware of the situation right now. I would imagine that he obviously wants to have Kyle Tucker join this team, and showing him on his Instagram posts like, hey, I see you. That's good stuff, right? Shows that the vibes could definitely develop between those two. And if you were to bring in somebody like Kyle Tucker, he'd obviously be here for a long period of time, and him and Vladdy, they'd need to be on the same page. Now, the latest that we heard on the Kyle Tucker market as a whole was that the Toronto Blue Jays, and I'll quote it right here, if there's one team willing and able to give Kyle Tucker the $400 million he seeks in free agency, it's the Toronto Blue Jays. And that is according to many of the agents. So a lot of those people that were having conversations at the winter meetings, they were talking amongst themselves and they were saying, hey, listen, if there's one squad that's capable and also willing to do it, it is going to be the Toronto Blue Jays. And the reason I say capable and willing is because those are two separate things. Toronto is capable and willing. The LA Dodgers, they are capable, but they're actually not willing, because the latest that we heard about them is that they only want to give a 3 or 4 year deal to Kyle Tucker, which clearly is not going to be a $400 million expense. That's going to be closer to the 100 to 150 mark if they were to do something like that. The New York Yankees, capable for sure, but from what we've heard, they might not be willing either, because they're looking to cut their spending down. And then the New York Mets, man, I don't even know if they're capable anymore. They're doing some wild stuff over there. But point being, the usual suspects that are always capable and typically usually willing to go and get the big fish, a lot of them aren't as willing as they have been in years prior, whereas Toronto, they very much are. So that is the latest on the Kyle Tucker sweepstakes. We're still waiting patiently to see what happens with that market, but Toronto very much in the race. Now let's talk the Bichette market. We got an update on what that's starting to look like, and I think that this is good for the Toronto Blue Jays. I really do. Keegan Matheson was on Overdrive a couple days back, and he said, I don't get any sense that the Bo market is surging. That's interesting, man, because when we were walking into this offseason, it was 7, 8, 9 years. Bichette, $200+ million. He's going to be, maybe he could even flirt with 250 because he is that talented of a bat. But I think what we're seeing right now is that other shoe that comes along with Bichette. The lack of defense, the fact that his legs are leaving him, and he is still only 27 years old right now. That is something that if you're a team looking to invest hundreds of millions of dollars, it is obviously going to give you some pause. Do we want to invest our future of our franchise in a guy who, if he doesn't have that one skill of hitting 180 times a season, he's not going to be very good for us, right? So the one season where Bichette isn't that good, isn't that dominant with the bat, that's going to be a lot of money going down the drain if you're that team that signs him. I think that this is good news for the Toronto Blue Jays, because ultimately, one, I don't know how willing they are to invest in Bichette to that extent, because let's face it, if they were willing to give him that deal, they probably already would have at this point. I'm sure that they had extension talks whilst he was on the roster, on the team. I would imagine that he came to them with a number that was probably larger than they anticipated, and they said, you know what, we're going to wait, we're going to let you test free agency, and then we're going to see what your market turns into. So I think that this is positive news for the Toronto Blue Jays, because you have to imagine that Bo's market is going to start coming in the direction that they might feel more comfortable with. Potentially a 2, 3, maybe a 4-year deal where it's not this, crazy $200 million thing, but still a high average annual value, just not as much risk if you are one of those teams giving him the long-term contract. Also, opens the door if they were to go and sign Kyle Tucker. Maybe you can flirt with the idea of bringing in Bichette as well if he's on a shorter term deal. So that's the latest with the Kyle Tucker and the Bichette market. Honestly, not a lot has changed in the last 3 or 4 days. We're just waiting patiently, hoping that their numbers come down. The latest on Cody Bellinger, if Scott Boras is to be believed, and he's insinuating that Toronto is interested in Cody Bellinger. I mean, I don't know. I don't even know if I believe him, folks, because Scott Boras, he's allowed to do that. He's allowed to throw that out there. And due to the rules and regulations of the CBA, Toronto can't actually come out and say that they're not interested in Cody Bellinger. So Scott Boras could just be trying to inflate Bellinger's market as much as possible. Seen it before. However, Bellinger, very similar player to what Kyle Tucker is. So if the Toronto Blue Jays are interested in Kyle Tucker, it also stands to reason that they may likely be interested in Cody Bellinger as well. And in years prior, in off seasons prior, we've heard the name Cody Bellinger being floated with the Toronto Blue Jays rather regularly. You look at the season that he had compared to Kyle Tucker, it's almost identical, folks. You could even argue that Bellinger had a better year than Kyle Tucker did last year. So would stand to reason that Toronto could be in that market. The latest that we heard is that it's Yankees, Yankees, Yankees. That is the one team right now that is thoroughly in the mix for Bellinger. Makes sense. They had him on his roster. He was very good for the New York Yankees. And ultimately, they're in a spot right now. Feels like they got to capitalize on this Aaron Judge window that they have. They're going to get Garrett Cole back. He's not getting any younger either. So they got to capitalize now. They are definitely going in on Bellinger. But from the rumors and the reports that we've heard out of there, Bellinger's number is a little bit too high right now for the likings of the New York Yankees, who are trying to cut back on their spending. So could Toronto maybe pivot to somebody like a Cody Bellinger, and could they potentially steal him away from the New York Yankees? I don't hate it. If I had to, rank them based on who I want the most, I think it is Kyle Tucker 1, Bichette 2, and then Bellinger 3. But I come back to this roster, and I do think that any one of those guys would be more than suitable at keeping this offense at the level that it's at right now. The offense needs to be the strength. It still is, but if you can add in just one more of those guys, Bellinger, Bo, Tucker, we are laughing. And with the additions that they made in the bullpen already, the next move is almost assuredly going to be in the position player side of things. But folks, let me know what you think about all this in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, go Jays, go.